The first black SUV hit the emergency entrance at 2:17 in the morning. Claire Bennett heard the crash before she saw the lights. She was standing beside Trauma Bay 3, still wearing the same pale blue scrubs she had put on 16 hours earlier, one hand wrapped around a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold sometime before midnight. Outside, Boston was disappearing beneath a savage February snowstorm. The windows of St. Bridget's Medical Center were white with frost, the city sirens muffled beneath layers of wind, ice, and darkness. Then the glass doors exploded open. Two men stumbled through first, dressed in black coats dusted with snow, carrying a third man between them. Blood ran down the injured man's shirt, soaking through his expensive wool overcoat, dripping onto the hospital floor in a dark, pulsing line. Behind them came more men, too many men, silent, armed, built like shadows. Their hands stayed beneath their jackets, but Claire knew the shape of violence when it walked into an emergency room. The security guard at the desk stepped forward. One of the men looked at him. The guard stepped back. Claire moved before anyone else did. "Trauma Bay," she snapped. "Now." The tallest man carrying the wounded patient turned his head toward her, surprised by the command. For 1 second, nobody moved. Nurses froze behind carts. A resident dropped a clipboard. Somewhere behind Claire, someone whispered, "Oh my God." Then another set of headlights cut through the storm outside. A second convoy pulled in. Not one SUV. 5. Black. Identical. Snow sliding off their roofs like ash. The doors opened at the same time, and the entire emergency department seemed to lose oxygen. Adrian Vale stepped into the hospital. Claire did not know his name yet, but everyone else did. She felt it in the way the room changed, in the way hardened police officers near the intake desk suddenly found somewhere else to look, in the way one of the surgeons went still as a statue, in the way the armed men, already terrifying, became disciplined the moment he entered. He was tall, dark-haired, and brutally calm. His black coat hung from his shoulders like something tailored for a funeral. Snow melted in his hair. His face held no panic, no grief, no visible fear, only a controlled, deadly stillness that made the room feel smaller. His eyes went straight to the bleeding man. "Luca," he said. One word. The wounded man's eyelids fluttered. "Adrian," he rasped. Claire pushed between them. "If you want him alive, you move when I tell you to move." A bodyguard's hand shot out, blocking her. Adrian's gaze dropped to the hand. The guard removed it instantly. Claire felt Adrian's eyes on her then, cold, assessing, sharp enough to cut skin. "You're the doctor?" he asked. "Nurse," she said, already pressing gauze against the wound. "And right now, I'm the only person in this room who isn't wasting his time." A strange silence followed. Somewhere, a monitor beeped. Luca Vale let out a broken laugh, then coughed blood. Adrian did not smile, but something changed in his face. Not softness, not yet. Something more dangerous. Interest. Claire ignored it. She had learned long ago that fear was useless in trauma care. Fear made your hands shake. Fear made you slow. She cut open Luca's shirt, found the bullet wound beneath his ribs, and barked orders to the stunned resident beside her. "Large bore IV. Type and cross. Call Dr. Reese. Tell surgery we need an OR prepped now." Nobody moved fast enough. Claire looked up. Now. This time, they moved. Adrian remained beside the bed, watching every motion. "You need to step back," Claire said. "No. You're in my sterile field. My brother is bleeding. And if you keep hovering over him like a ghost in a $1,000 coat, he'll keep bleeding." One of Adrian's men inhaled sharply. Claire knew she had crossed a line. She saw it in the bodyguards' faces. Men like them were not used to women speaking to their boss that way. Maybe no one was. Adrian slowly turned toward her. The emergency lights flickered once above them. His voice stayed quiet. "Do you always talk to dangerous men like that?" Claire pressed harder against Luca's wound. "Only when they're in my way." For the first time, she saw something human move behind his eyes. Not warmth, not mercy, fascination. Then gunfire shattered the night. The front windows of the emergency department burst inward. Glass sprayed across the waiting room. Patients screamed. A nurse dove behind the counter. Bullets punched into the walls, the vending machine, the triage sign. The storm outside flashed with muzzle fire. Adrian moved so fast Claire barely saw it. 1 second he was standing beside the bed. The next, his body was between Claire and the windows. He did not push her gently. He drove her behind the trauma cart, with one arm locked across her waist, as bullets tore through the room behind them. His coat smelled like snow, smoke, and something expensive. His hand was iron against her ribs. "Stay down," he said. Claire's heart slammed against her chest. Luca groaned on the bed. "He's bleeding out," she gasped. "Stay down. He will die." Adrian looked down at her, inches away now, his face carved from shadow and emergency light. "Then tell me how to keep you alive long enough to save him." The way he said it stopped her more effectively than the gunfire. "Not him, you." Outside, his men returned fire. The hospital lobby became chaos. Sirens, screams, shattering glass, the metallic thunder of weapons. Claire smelled blood, antiseptic, and burning plastic. Her mind tried to split into panic, but years of emergency medicine forced it back into shape. "We need the trauma bay doors sealed," she said quickly. "Move the bed away from the windows. I need pressure, fluids, and access to the OR." Adrian lifted his head. "Lock down the hospital," he ordered. A man near the entrance hesitated. "Boss, police response. No one enters. No one leaves." "Adrian," Luca whispered weakly. "Don't." Adrian's eyes flicked to his brother. "Quiet." Then he looked back at Claire. "You save him," he said. "I'll stop the city from reaching you." Within 7 minutes, St. Bridget's Medical Center became a fortress. Steel security gates dropped over the ambulance entrance. Armed men blocked every corridor. Elevators were disabled. Stairwells were guarded. Outside, Boston police lights smeared blue and red across the snow, but no one came in. Reporters gathered behind barricades before dawn had even touched the sky. Inside, Claire worked with blood up to her wrists. Luca's pulse kept dropping. His skin turned the color of paper beneath the harsh surgical lights. The bullet had torn through too much tissue. He needed an operating room, but the OR team was trapped upstairs behind a jammed elevator, and the storm had knocked out part of the backup system. So Claire did what she had always done. She made the impossible smaller. She turned the trauma bay into a battlefield operating room. She forced a terrified resident to hold pressure. She ordered one of Adrian's gunmen to squeeze an IV bag. When the man looked offended, she snapped, "Congratulations. You've been promoted to useful." Adrian watched from the doorway. He should have left. Men were dying in the lobby. His empire was under attack. The police were gathering outside. Whoever had shot Luca had brought war straight into a hospital. But Adrian stayed, silent, unmoving, watching Claire like he was trying to solve a problem he had never encountered before. When Luca's heart stuttered, Claire climbed onto the side rail, pressed both hands into his chest, and refused to let him slip away. "No," she said, breathless. "You don't get to die on my floor." Luca's eyes opened slightly. For a moment, his gaze met hers. There was fear in it. Not fear of death, fear of being exposed. Claire felt it like a cold hand closing around the back of her neck. Then Luca whispered something so faint she almost missed it. "Don't trust him." Claire looked at Adrian. Adrian had heard it too. His face did not change, but the room became colder. Luca passed out again. By 4:03 in the morning, Claire stabilized him. By 4:19, the OR team reached the trauma bay. By 4:27, Luca Vale was wheeled upstairs for surgery under armed escort. Claire stepped into the corridor, covered in blood, exhausted, shaking from adrenaline she had not allowed herself to feel. The hospital lights flickered. Snow beat against the windows. Far down the hall, someone sobbed quietly. Adrian stood near the nurse's station, speaking to 3 men in low voices. When Claire appeared, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes moved over her tangled hair, her blood-stained scrubs, the bruises forming on her arms from where she had hit the floor during the shooting. Then his gaze settled on her hands. They were trembling. Claire curled them into fists. Adrian dismissed his men with a look and walked toward her. Every instinct told her to step back. She didn't. "You need stitches," he said. Claire glanced down. Only then did she notice the cut along her forearm, glass embedded near her elbow. "I need coffee. You're bleeding. You brought a gunfight into my hospital. I'll make a list of complaints later." His mouth almost moved. Not a smile, a ghost of one, buried before it could live. "You're not afraid of me," he said. Claire held his gaze. "I'm terrified of you." That seemed to please him less than denial would have. "But fear doesn't make you special," she added. "Half the city is afraid of you. And you? I'm angry." Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he said, "Anger gets people killed. So do men like you." The hallway went silent around them. Claire realized too late that several of his men had heard. Adrian did not look away from her. "No," he said softly. "Men like me keep worse men away. Is that what you tell yourself?" "It's what I prove." Before she could answer, a nurse at the desk gasped. Claire turned. Every television in the waiting area had switched to breaking news. Boston hospital under lockdown after Mafia shootout. Below it, grainy footage played of Adrian entering St. Bridget's. Then another clip appeared. Claire standing over Luca Vale in Trauma Bay 3, her hands pressed into his wound. Her face was everywhere. Claire's stomach dropped. Adrian's expression darkened. "Turn it off," he ordered. One of his men reached for the remote. Too late. The anchor's voice cut through the hall. "Sources suggest the nurse treating Luca Vale may be a key witness in an ongoing federal investigation." Claire went still. Federal investigation? She looked at Adrian. He was no longer calm, not visibly angry, not dramatic, but something deadly had entered the air around him. "You knew," Claire whispered. Adrian's jaw tightened. "What investigation?" "Claire, no." Her voice sharpened. "Why did they say I'm a witness?" Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "This is not the place." She laughed once, but it came out broken. "The hospital is locked down by armed criminals. I'm on national news. Someone shot through my ER windows. I think this is exactly the place." A shout erupted from the end of the corridor. "Boss!" One of Adrian's men ran toward them with a phone in his hand. Adrian took it, listened. His face turned completely unreadable. Then he looked at Claire. "What?" she demanded. "They know your name." Something inside her went hollow. "Who?" "The men who attacked." Claire forced herself to breathe. "Why would they know my name?" Adrian's silence answered before he did. Because this was not just about Luca. Because somehow, impossibly, it was about her too. 16 months earlier, Claire had treated a dying man brought in under a false name. He had arrived just before dawn, no ID, 2 stab wounds, and a wedding ring tied to a chain around his neck. He had been older, maybe 60, with silver hair and eyes that kept searching the room as if death were not the thing he feared most. Claire had held pressure on his wounds until the surgeons came. He had grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "Vale blood," he had whispered. She remembered because the phrase made no sense. "Sir, don't talk," Claire had told him. But he had dragged her closer. "Vale blood cuts Vale blood. Tell Adrian." His brother opened the door. Then he had pressed something into her palm. A tiny metal key. Claire had thought it belonged to a locker, maybe a storage unit. Before she could ask, he was gone. By the end of her shift, federal agents had arrived. They took the body. They took the files. They took the security footage. One agent asked Claire what the man had said. She told him. He told her she must have misheard. The next day, the record of the patient vanished from the hospital system. Claire kept the key. She told herself it was because she didn't trust federal agents. The truth was simpler. She had looked into the dying man's eyes and believed him. Now, standing in a lockdown hospital while Adrian Vale watched her like a storm barely held behind glass, Claire understood that the past had not vanished. It had been waiting. "You knew about him," she said. Adrian's eyes flickered. "About the man who died here. His name was Marco Belandi." The name passed through the corridor like a knife. One of Adrian's men looked up sharply. Claire's pulse quickened. Belandi. As in the rival family? Adrian's voice was low. As in the man who raised me more honestly than my father ever did. Claire stared at him. He was your enemy. He was supposed to be. The fluorescent lights hummed above them. He told me your brother opened the door, Claire said. Adrian did not react, but his stillness became terrible. Who else knows that? The FBI. Maybe. I told Agent Walsh. Adrian closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, they were colder. Walsh is dead. Claire's breath caught. He was found 3 months ago in the harbor, Adrian said. No badge, no phone, no teeth. The hallway seemed to tilt. Claire grabbed the edge of the nurse's station. Adrian moved toward her, but she lifted one hand. Don't. He stopped. That mattered. She hated that it mattered. Why didn't anyone tell me? She asked. Because I made sure your name disappeared. You made sure? Yes. The word was calm, possessive, infuriating. Claire looked at the televisions, at her face frozen on the screen, at the armed men controlling the exits, at the man who seemed to own the air around him. You've been watching me. Adrian said nothing. Her stomach turned. How long? Since Marco died. The answer struck harder than if he had lied. Claire stepped back. You stalked me. I protected you. You watched my life. I kept you alive. You don't get to make that sound noble. His eyes sharpened. 3 men came for you last spring in the parking garage. 1 in September near your apartment. 2 in December outside your sister's school. Claire went cold. She remembered those nights. The strange car idling too long. The man near the elevator who disappeared when she turned around. The feeling of being followed through the rain, then the sudden sound of tires screeching away. She had blamed exhaustion. She had blamed paranoia. Adrian had been there, or his men had. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because you would have run. I might still. You won't survive the sidewalk. The honesty in his voice chilled her more than any threat could have. A nurse called her name from behind them. Claire, the police are asking for you on the phone. Adrian looked toward the desk. No. Claire turned on him. You don't decide who I talk to. If you pick up that phone, they will trace where you are inside the building. They already know I'm inside the building. It's on every screen in Boston. Not them, Adrian said. The way he said it made her skin prickle. Then the hospital's emergency speaker crackled. A distorted voice filled every hallway. Claire Bennett. Every person in the corridor froze. Static hissed. Then the voice continued. Bring her to the ambulance entrance, or we start sending patients out in pieces. For 1 second, Claire could hear nothing but her heartbeat. Adrian moved first. He took a gun from the nearest guard and stepped in front of her. The motion was fluid, automatic, absolute. Claire stared at his back. He had not hesitated, not for his brother, not for his empire, for her. Who is that? She whispered. Adrian's voice was quiet. Someone who should have died the last time he said your name. The lights went out. Emergency red flooded the hospital. People screamed again, and the lockdown became a living thing, breathing fear through every hallway, every stairwell, every sealed door. Claire was moved before she could protest, pulled behind Adrian as his men formed a tight circle around her. I have patience, she said, struggling against the grip of one bodyguard. Adrian did not turn around. Your patients need you alive. They need me present. They need you breathing. She yanked free. Stop deciding that my life matters more than theirs. That made him turn. In the red emergency light, his face looked almost inhuman. Beautiful in a way that belonged to marble statues and knives. It matters more to me. The words landed between them with terrible weight. His men pretended not to hear. Claire did not know what to do with them, so she did the only thing that felt safe. She got angry. That is not romance, she snapped. That is arrogance. I never claimed to be romantic. No, you just lock down hospitals and call it protection. His eyes held hers. And yet you're still alive. Before she could answer, an explosion rocked the lower level. The floor shuddered. Somewhere below, alarms screamed. Smoke curled under the stairwell doors. The attackers had breached the service entrance. Adrian's expression changed. Not fear, calculation. He turned to his second-in-command, a broad-shouldered man named Mikhail. Move the ICU patients to the east wing. Put 3 men on pediatrics. Nobody fires near oxygen tanks. Nobody touches hospital staff. Mikhail nodded. Claire stared at Adrian. For a man accused of being a monster, he issued orders like someone who had memorized the layout of human vulnerability. Then he looked at her. You're coming with me. No. He stepped closer. Claire. The sound of her name in his mouth was dangerous, not soft, not pleading, more intimate because it was controlled. I can help upstairs, she said. You are the target. Your brother is in surgery, and you are the reason they attacked the hospital. She flinched. Adrian saw it. For the first time, something like regret moved across his face. That came out wrong, he said. No, she whispered. It came out honest. Another burst of gunfire echoed from below. Adrian reached for her wrist, then stopped before touching her. The restraint was so deliberate she felt it. Come with me, he said again, quieter. Not because I own you. Because if you die tonight, the truth dies with you. Claire should have refused, but the hospital speaker crackled again. This time, the voice laughed. Claire, sweetheart, Adrian never told you what was in the key, did he? Her blood went cold. Adrian's gaze snapped to her. What key? Claire's silence betrayed her. His eyes narrowed. What key, Claire? She swallowed. The dying man gave me something. For the first time since he entered the hospital, Adrian Vale looked truly shaken. Not visibly, not to anyone who didn't know how to read silence. But Claire saw it, a hairline crack in the ice. Where is it? He asked. My apartment. The red lights flickered overhead. The voice on the speaker whispered, Then we'll burn that too. Adrian's control snapped like a wire. He did not shout. He did not curse. He simply turned to Mikhail and said, Find him. Mikhail's face hardened. Alive? Adrian looked toward the darkened hallway where smoke was beginning to gather. No. Claire grabbed his sleeve before she could stop herself. Adrian looked down at her hand on his coat. So did everyone else. Don't kill someone in my hospital, she said. His gaze rose slowly to hers. They threatened your home, and you think murder fixes that? I think dead men don't come back for you. She let go of him. That's the difference between us. No, he said. The difference is you still believe the world punishes evil. I know it waits for permission. That should have terrified her. It did. But beneath the terror was something worse. Understanding. Because Claire had seen evil too. Not in luxury penthouses or mafia wars. In quiet hospital rooms. In husbands who explained bruises with smiles. In parents who never visited dying children. In men who arrived drunk and left nurses crying in supply closets. Claire knew the world did not always punish evil. Sometimes, it handed evil a discharge form and let it walk out. A scream came from the pediatric wing. Claire ran before anyone could stop her. Adrian swore under his breath and followed. They found chaos near the east corridor. Smoke had triggered the fire doors, trapping a group of patients and staff between 2 locked sections. A young boy on oxygen was coughing violently, while his mother sobbed beside him. A nurse tried to override the door panel, hands shaking. Claire dropped to her knees beside the boy. What's his name? Eli, the mother cried. He can't breathe. Claire checked the tank, the mask, his pulse. We need to move him. The doors won't open, the nurse said. Adrian stepped past them. 2 of his men tried the manual release. Nothing. Claire looked up. Can you break it? Stand back, Adrian said. His men lifted their weapons. No guns, Claire snapped. Oxygen. Adrian did not hesitate. He removed his coat, wrapped it around his fist, and drove his shoulder into the emergency glass cabinet beside the door. It shattered. Blood ran instantly over his knuckles. He pulled the fire axe free and swung once at the metal panel. Then again. Then again. Every strike was controlled violence, brutal and precise. The door mechanism sparked. One of his men pulled the doors open manually. Claire lifted Eli with the help of another nurse. As she passed Adrian, She saw blood dripping from his hand onto the floor. "You're hurt," she said. His eyes stayed on the child in her arms. "Move." They got the pediatric patients into the East Wing. For a moment, there was no gunfire. Only the sound of children crying and monitors beeping, and Claire trying to slow her breathing. Adrian stood near the window, flexing his bleeding hand. Claire approached with gauze. He looked at her. "You don't have to, I know." She took his hand anyway. It was the first time she touched him without emergency or fear. His skin was warm despite the cold in his face. His knuckles were split. Old scars crossed his fingers, pale and thin. He watched her bandage him with the intensity of a man watching a door unlock. "You should hate me," he said. "I'm working on it." Another almost smile vanished before it became real. "You're not what I expected," he said. "What did you expect? Someone easier to scare?" Claire wrapped the gauze tight enough to make his fingers tense. "I am scared." "No," he said quietly. "You're brave. There's a difference." The words slipped beneath her defenses before she could stop them. She looked up. For a heartbeat, the hospital disappeared. The smoke, the storm, the armed men, the blood. There was only Adrian Vale standing too close, his injured hand in hers, his eyes locked on her mouth, like wanting had become a crime he had not decided whether to commit. He almost touched her face. She saw the motion begin, then stop. His fingers curled at his side. Claire hated the small ache that followed. A voice interrupted them. "Boss." Mikhail stood at the end of the corridor. "We found the breach team. 2 dead. 1 escaped into the service tunnels." Adrian's expression shut down. "And Luca? Still in surgery. Police?" "Negotiating. Reporters everywhere. Federal agents just arrived." Claire looked up sharply. "Federal?" Mikhail hesitated. Adrian noticed. "What?" "Agent Walsh's replacement is outside. Says he knows Nurse Bennett. Says she's under federal protection." Claire went still. "I'm what?" Adrian's face darkened. "You were never told?" "No." Mikhail glanced between them. "The agent's name is Cole Mercer." Claire recognized it. Not from the FBI, from her sister. Her younger sister Hannah taught 3rd grade in Cambridge. 3 months ago, she had started dating a man named Cole. Kind, charming, always bringing flowers, always asking casual questions about Claire's shifts. Claire's stomach turned. "No," she whispered. Adrian saw the realization in her face. "What is it?" "My sister knows him." His eyes became lethal. "Where is your sister?" Claire pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "No service." The hospital lockdown had jammed signals. Adrian turned to Mikhail. "Get me a secure line." Claire grabbed his arm. "Adrian." It was the first time she said his name. Both of them felt it. His gaze dropped to her hand. "My sister," Claire said. "Please." That one word did what guns could not. "Please." Adrian Vale, feared by everyone in Boston, obeyed. Within minutes, they reached a secured administrative office. Mikhail connected a satellite phone. Claire dialed Hannah's number from memory. No answer. She tried again. No answer. On the 3rd call, someone picked up. For 1 second, Claire heard only wind. Then her sister's voice came through, trembling. "Claire? Hannah? Where are you?" "I'm okay. I'm okay. I think, Claire, Cole came to my apartment. He said there was a threat. He said I needed to come with him." Claire's blood turned to ice. "Are you with him now?" A pause. Then Hannah whispered, "He's outside the car." Adrian took the phone from Claire's hand, not roughly, but with absolute urgency. "Hannah," he said, "listen to me very carefully. Is there snow on the windshield?" Claire stared at him. Her sister sniffed. "Yes." "Can you see water?" "A harbor, I think. There are cranes." Adrian's eyes lifted to Mikhail. "Black Falcon Terminal," Mikhail said. Adrian spoke into the phone again. "Lock the door. Stay low. Do not let him see you talking." "Who are you?" Hannah whispered. Adrian looked at Claire. For a moment, his face changed. "I'm the man who is going to bring your sister back to you." The line crackled. Then a male voice spoke. "Touching." Claire stopped breathing. "Cole Mercer. You always did love dramatic promises, Adrian. Adrian's expression went still. Mercer. No, the man said. Try again. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Then, quietly, Belandi. Claire's stomach dropped. The man laughed. Marco's son, actually. You killed my father. Your brother helped. And now the little nurse who heard his last words belongs to me. Adrian's voice lowered into something almost gentle. If you harm her sister, I will take you apart slowly enough for hell to get impatient. Cole, Belandi, laughed again. You won't. Because Claire has the key, and Luca has the lock. The call ended. Silence filled the office. Claire turned to Adrian. Luca has the lock? Adrian's face gave nothing away. But the truth was unfolding now, piece by piece, each one sharper than the last. Marco kept evidence, he said. Insurance against both families. My father, Belandi, federal agents, judges, everyone. Before he died, he split access in two. The key, Claire whispered, and a lockbox only Luca knew how to find. Why Luca? Adrian's jaw tightened. Because Marco trusted him. Did you? He didn't answer. The silence was enough. Claire stepped back. You think your brother betrayed you? I think my brother was shot tonight to make me believe someone else did. The words struck like thunder. He staged this? Maybe. He almost died. Luca always had expensive taste, even in lies. Claire shook her head, trying to process it. No, he was bleeding out. I felt his pulse drop. Pain can be real, even when loyalty isn't. The office door opened. A surgeon entered, pale and exhausted. Mr. Vale? Adrian turned. Your brother is out of surgery. He's stable. Claire saw the relief hit Adrian before he killed it. Just for a second, the cold man vanished. A brother remained. Then the mask returned. Can he talk? The surgeon hesitated. He shouldn't. Adrian was already walking. Claire followed. You are not interrogating a man who just came out of surgery, she said. He has your sister. We don't know that. Adrian turned on her so sharply she almost collided with him. My brother betrayed me, Claire. If I'm right, he helped put your sister in a car with a man who wants you dead. So yes, I'm going to ask him questions. And if you're wrong? His eyes flashed. Then I'll apologize. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. Luca Vale lay in a private recovery room under guard, pale and beautiful in the way dangerous men often were when death made them look innocent. Tubes ran from his arms. A monitor tracked his heartbeat. His dark lashes rested against skin drained of color. Adrian stood at the foot of the bed. Claire remained near the door, arms folded, trying not to see a patient as a suspect. Luca opened his eyes. For a moment, he looked genuinely relieved to see Adrian. Then he saw Claire. Something flickered. Too fast for most people to catch. Claire caught it. Fear. Adrian did too. Where is the lockbox? Adrian asked. Luca's lips curved faintly. Good to see you too. Adrian walked closer. Where is it? I was shot, brother. So was my patience. Claire moved forward. His blood pressure. Adrian lifted one hand, stopping her without looking away from Luca. Luca's gaze shifted to her. You saved my life, he said softly. Claire said nothing. His smile turned sad. You should have let me die. Adrian's hand closed around the bed rail. Why? Luca looked at him then, and the performance cracked. Under the charm, under the wounded innocence, there was resentment so old it had become bone. Because you always take everything, Luca whispered. Adrian did not move. The name, the empire, father's fear, Marco's respect. Luca's eyes burned. Even her. Claire stiffened. Adrian's voice was flat. She is not a possession. Luca laughed weakly. Listen to you. One night with the nurse and the devil found manners. Adrian leaned over the bed. Where is Hannah Bennett? Luca blinked. The name landed. He hadn't expected Adrian to know. Claire felt sick. Luca, she said, stepping closer despite herself. That's my sister. She's a teacher. She has nothing to do with this. Luca looked at her for a long moment. For the first time, guilt touched his face. Then it vanished. None of us have nothing to do with this, he said. That's the tragedy. Adrian's voice became very quiet. If you don't tell me where she is, brother or not, I will become the thing our father wanted me to be. Luca's eyes filled with something like triumph. There he is. Adrian went still. You wanted this, Claire realized. You wanted him to lose control. Luca's gaze slid to her. She understands faster than you do. Claire stepped closer, anger burning through fear. You attacked a hospital. You endangered children. You put my sister in danger because you were jealous? Luca's face twisted. Jealous? He whispered. Adrian gets worshipped for being cold. I get called weak for still having a heart. You don't have a heart, Claire said. You have a wound you keep feeding other people to. For a second, the room froze. Then Luca smiled, a real smile. Oh, he said softly. Now I see it. Adrian's eyes darkened. Luca looked between them. You're already doomed. Adrian lunged so fast Claire barely reacted. He grabbed Luca by the hospital gown and dragged him halfway up despite the tubes, despite the monitor screaming. Claire shoved herself between them. Stop! Adrian froze, with Luca in his grip. Claire pressed both hands against Adrian's chest. His heart was pounding under her palms. Not calm now, not cold, terrified. Look at me, she said. He didn't. Adrian. His eyes snapped to hers. There was violence in them, but behind it was something rawer. Fear. Fear of being betrayed. Fear of being too late. Fear of losing someone he had no right to need. Claire lowered her voice. If you hurt him, he wins. Adrian's breathing was rough. Luca watched them with satisfaction. Claire held Adrian's gaze. Don't become the monster he needs you to be. Seconds passed. Then Adrian released Luca. Luca collapsed back onto the pillow, coughing, laughing, bleeding through a fresh bandage. Adrian stepped away. Claire did too. But before they left, Luca whispered, Black Falcon is only the beginning. The lock opens at sunrise. Adrian turned. Luca smiled with bloody teeth. And Claire's apartment is already burning. Claire ran. She didn't remember choosing to move. One moment she was in Luca's room. The next, she was tearing through the corridor. Adrian behind her. His men scrambling to keep up. My apartment, she gasped. The key. Hannah's photos. Everything. Adrian caught her at the stairwell. Claire. She fought him. Let go. Listen to me. No. He took her face in both hands. The touch shocked them both into stillness. His palms were warm, his bandaged knuckles rough against her cheek. He held her, as if she were something breakable, though his eyes promised death to anyone who tried. I will get your sister, he said. I will get the key if it survived, but if you run into the storm alone, they will take you too. My life is not a strategy. No, he said, voice strained. It has become the one thing I cannot strategize around. Her breath caught. For one dangerous second, she thought he might kiss her. He looked like he wanted to, like it hurt not to. Then the hospital shook again, with distant gunfire, and the moment shattered. Adrian dropped his hands. Mikhail, he said, bring the car to the north exit. Claire stared at him. You're leaving the hospital? I'm ending this. I'm coming. No, yes, his eyes narrowed. You are not walking into a Mafia execution. My sister is there because of me, because of Luca, because of the key Marco gave me, because of the words I heard, because everyone in this war keeps deciding what I should know after my life is already on fire. Adrian said nothing. Claire stepped closer. You want me to trust you? Then stop protecting me like a prisoner. The words hit. He looked away first. That victory should have felt satisfying. It didn't. Finally, Adrian said, You stay behind me. You do what I say when bullets start moving. And if I tell you to run, you run. Claire held his gaze. If I tell you not to kill someone in front of me, you listen. His expression hardened. Then, to her surprise, he nodded once. Fair. They left through the north exit at 5:31 in the morning. Boston was a city of sirens and snow. The hospital behind them glowed red beneath emergency lights. Police barricades flashed. Reporters shouted. A line of black SUVs waited like funeral cars along the curb. Adrian pulled Claire into the center vehicle, while his men formed a wall against cameras and rifles. As the door shut, flashes erupted. For the entire city, the image was instant and unforgettable. Claire Bennett, the blood-stained nurse, being shielded by Adrian Vale's body as he guided her into his car, with one hand at her back. By sunrise, every news station would call her his lover, his hostage, his weakness, maybe all three. Inside the SUV, silence pressed between them. Claire stared out at the snow-choked streets. Adrian sat beside her, close enough that his sleeve brushed hers whenever the car turned. He did not touch her. That restraint felt louder than touch now. "Is my sister alive?" she asked. "Yes. You don't know that." "I know the kind of man holding her. That isn't comforting. He wants leverage, not a corpse." Claire turned to him. "You say things like that as if they should make me feel better. I've never been good at that." "At what?" "Making the truth gentle." The SUV moved through Boston with impossible speed. Traffic lights meant nothing. Police blockades opened before they reached them. Claire watched officers step aside in the storm, furious and powerless. "What are you?" she whispered. Adrian looked out the window. What Boston made when it needed someone worse than the men already running it. That sounds rehearsed. "It's still true. Did you kill Marco Bellondi?" His jaw tightened. "No." "Did your father?" "Yes. And Luca helped." "I don't know. But you suspect it." "I suspect everything. It's why I'm alive." Claire looked down at her hands. Luca's blood still stained the lines of her palms despite washing. "Marco told me your brother opened the door." Adrian's face turned toward her. "To what?" "I don't know." But she did know one thing. The dying man's terror had not been about old crimes. It had been about something coming. The SUV stopped 2 blocks from her apartment. Smoke rose into the gray morning. Claire opened the door before Adrian could stop her. Her apartment building was surrounded by firefighters, police, and neighbors wrapped in blankets. Flames had chewed through the 3rd floor, her 3rd floor. Windows were shattered. Water poured down brick. Smoke stained the snow black. Claire stood in the street and felt something inside her go quiet. Her home had been small, a walk-up with radiators that clanged all winter, and a kitchen window that never sealed properly. But it was hers, her books, her sister's spare key, her mother's old recipe cards. The blue mug Hannah had given her after nursing school. The little metal key hidden in a tin behind expired tea bags. Gone. Adrian stopped beside her. He did not speak. Maybe he knew there were no words that would not insult the loss. A firefighter shouted as part of the roof collapsed inward. Claire flinched. Adrian's hand moved toward her back, stopped, then lowered. She saw it. The almost comfort. The refusal to claim what had not been offered. It made her chest ache. "My neighbor," she said suddenly. "Mrs. Alvarez. She lives below me." "She's out," Mikhail said from behind them. 2 tenants injured, no fatalities. Claire closed her eyes. Relief hit so hard she nearly stumbled. Adrian caught her this time. Not possessively, not dramatically, just one hand at her elbow. Steady. She let him. For 3 seconds, she let herself lean into the strength of him. Then a young firefighter approached, holding a warped metal tin. "Are you Claire Bennett?" Claire lifted her head. "Yes. Found this near the kitchen area. One of the guys said it had your name on some papers inside." Claire took the tin with numb hands. It was blackened, dented, hot at the edges. Inside, beneath soaked recipe cards and melted plastic, lay the little metal key, untouched. Adrian stared at it. So did Mikhail. Claire closed her fingers around it. Then every phone on the street began to buzz. Emergency alerts, news alerts, police alerts. Mikhail checked his screen first. His face changed. "Boss." Adrian took the phone. Claire watched his eyes move over the message. "What?" she asked. He turned the screen toward her. Live broadcast. Unknown woman held at Black Falcon Terminal. Suspect demands Claire Bennett and Adrian Vale. Below the headline was a grainy image. Hannah, bound to a chair inside an empty warehouse, face bruised, eyes terrified. Claire's knees almost gave out. Adrian's hand closed around her arm. The pressure was firm, grounding. "I'm going," she said. "Yes," Adrian replied. She looked at him, startled. His eyes stayed on the image of her sister. "We both are." Black Falcon Terminal rose from the harbor like a skeleton of steel and fog. The snow had turned wet near the water, falling in heavy sheets against shipping containers, cranes, and abandoned warehouses. Adrian's convoy stopped outside the main gate. His men spread silently, weapons hidden but ready. Claire sat in the SUV, the key clenched in her fist. Adrian looked at her. "Last chance," he said. "To do what?" "Stay in the car." She almost laughed. "You know me better than that by now." "Yes," he said quietly. "That's the problem." The honesty in his voice made her look at him. He was not soft. Not even now. His face remained controlled, his posture still lethal, but something had changed since the hospital. The distance he kept from her was no longer indifference, it was discipline. "You don't like needing people," she said. His gaze held hers. "No. But you need your brother." "I did. And now?" A pause. "Now I don't know what he is." Claire swallowed. "I know what that feels like." Adrian's eyes lowered briefly to her burned tin, to the key inside her palm. "Your sister?" "My father," Claire said before she could stop herself. Adrian waited. The storm beat against the windows. "He was a cop," she continued. "Good one," everyone said. "Brave. Honest. Then after he died, we found money hidden in the basement. Not enough to make us rich, enough to make us wonder who he was protecting, or who he was taking from." Adrian's voice was low. "How old were you?" 17. "That's young to lose faith. It's old enough to understand people are never just one thing." He looked at her for a long time. "No," he said. "They're not." Outside, Mikhail signaled. It was time. Adrian opened the door, then paused. "Claire." She looked at him. "If anything goes wrong, I need you to hate me later and survive first." Her throat tightened. "That sounds like goodbye." "It's a rule. I don't like your rules." "I know." He stepped out into the snow. Claire followed. They entered the warehouse through a side door beneath a broken security camera. Inside, the air smelled of salt, rust, and diesel. Shadows hung from the rafters. Somewhere deep inside, water dripped steadily onto concrete. Then lights snapped on. Claire blinked against the glare. Hannah sat in the center of the warehouse, tied to a chair, alive. Claire took one step forward. Adrian caught her wrist. Across the open space stood Cole Mercer, no longer pretending to be harmless. His FBI posture was gone. In its place was something aristocratic and bitter, a man wearing revenge like a tailored suit. Beside him stood Luca Vale, not in a hospital bed, not weak. Upright, pale, supported by rage more than strength, a pistol loose in his hand. Claire's breath stopped. "You left the hospital," she whispered. Luca smiled. "You saved me well." Adrian's face did not change, but Claire felt the shift in him, a storm going silent before it destroys the shore. "Let her go," Claire said, looking at her sister. Hannah shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. Cole laughed. "Nurses, always asking for mercy in rooms built for business." Adrian stepped slightly in front of Claire. Luca noticed. His smile widened. There it is again, that little movement. Father used to do that for Mother before he broke her jaw. Adrian's voice stayed calm. "Don't compare me to him." "Why not? You wear his throne. I buried his body and inherited his sins." Claire looked between them. The old wound was open now. Luca lifted his gun, not aiming yet. Marco Bellondi knew what Father built. He knew which judges were bought, which senators were owned, which federal agents were on the payroll. He knew Father ordered the harbor massacre. He knew Adrian helped clean it up. Claire's eyes flicked to Adrian. Adrian did not defend himself. That hurt more than denial would have. Luca saw it. "Oh, he didn't tell you that part?" Luca said softly. "Your protector has always been good at deciding which truths women can survive." Claire's chest tightened. Adrian's eyes remained on Luca. "Tell her the rest," he said. Luca's smile faded. Adrian took one step forward. Tell her why Marco came to the hospital. Tell her why you sent him there bleeding. Tell her why you needed Claire to hear the words but not understand them. Cole's expression sharpened. Claire turned to Luca. Luca's jaw clenched. Adrian's voice lowered. You didn't expect her to keep the key. Luca said nothing. You expected the FBI to take it. You expected Walsh to bring it to you. But Walsh grew a conscience. Cole's face hardened. Claire whispered, So, you killed him. Cole shrugged. He chose poorly. Adrian's gaze never left Luca. And when Claire kept the key, she became a loose end. Hannah sobbed quietly. Claire felt the world narrowing. Luca looked at her then. For 1 second, something like regret returned. I never wanted it to be personal. Claire's laugh came out broken. You kidnapped my sister because Adrian made you personal. No, she said, stepping from behind Adrian. You made me a witness. You made me a target. You burned my home. Do not blame your cruelty on his feelings. Adrian turned his head slightly toward her. The pride in his eyes was almost painful. Luca's face twisted. You think he loves you? The warehouse went silent. Claire felt Adrian go still beside her. Luca smiled like he had found the wound. He doesn't love. He collects responsibility. You're just the newest damaged thing he failed to prevent. Claire looked at Adrian. For one unbearable second, he did not speak. Then Adrian said, quietly, Maybe. The word hit her like cold water, but he continued. Maybe I don't know how to love without turning it into surveillance. Maybe I don't know how to protect without controlling. Maybe every decent instinct in me was taught by monsters and comes out wrong. His eyes found Claire's. But I know this. When the glass broke in that hospital, I did not think of my empire. I did not think of Luca. I thought of her. Claire's breath caught. Adrian's voice roughened, just barely. And it terrified me. No one moved. Even Luca looked shaken. Adrian turned back to his brother. You wanted me to become father in front of her. Luca lifted the gun. I wanted you to admit you already are. Then he fired. Adrian shoved Claire down. The bullet struck the container behind them with a scream of metal. Gunfire erupted from every side. Adrian's men broke from the shadows. Cole's men returned fire from the catwalks. The warehouse became thunder and sparks. Claire crawled toward Hannah. A bullet struck the concrete near her hand. Adrian appeared over her instantly, dragging her behind a forklift. I told you to stay behind me, he snapped. My sister is tied to a chair in the middle of a war. His eyes flashed. And you think dying helps her? I think standing here arguing doesn't. For a second, even surrounded by gunfire, they stared at each other like they were the only dangerous thing in the room. Then Adrian pulled a knife from inside his coat and pressed it into her hand. Cut her loose. I'll cover you. Adrian. He leaned close, his mouth near her ear. Trust me for 30 seconds. She hated that she did. He stepped out from behind cover. Not wildly, not recklessly. Like a man born inside violence and tired of pretending he could ever fully leave it. Claire ran. Adrian's gunfire carved a path through the chaos. Mikhail took down a man near the loading dock. Another bodyguard slammed into Cole's shooter on the catwalk. Sparks rained from a shattered light overhead. Claire reached Hannah and dropped to her knees. Hannah, look at me. Her sister was shaking violently. Claire, I've got you. Claire cut the ropes with fumbling hands. Across the warehouse, Luca shouted Adrian's name. Claire looked up. Luca had moved behind Adrian, gun raised. No! Claire screamed. Adrian turned too late. Luca fired. The bullet hit Adrian high in the shoulder, spinning him back against a shipping container. For a moment, the entire warehouse seemed to stop. Claire felt something tear open inside her. Adrian looked down at the blood spreading across his shirt. Then he looked at Luca, not angry, heartbroken. Luca's gun trembled. I had to, Luca whispered. Adrian pushed himself upright. No, he said. You wanted to. Cole grabbed Hannah from behind before Claire could pull her away, pressing a gun to her head. Enough, Cole shouted. Key. Now. Claire froze. Adrian's wounded hand tightened around his gun. Cole smiled. Move, and the sister dies. Claire lifted the key slowly. Her fingers were slick with sweat. All this for evidence? She asked. For inheritance, Cole said. For truth, for revenge. Pick whichever makes you feel important. Luca's face had gone pale. He looked from Hannah to Claire, then to Adrian bleeding against the container. For the first time, he seemed to understand the ugliness of what he had built. Cole, Luca said, let the girl go. Cole laughed. You don't give orders anymore. Luca raised his gun toward Cole. Cole turned faster. The shot hit Luca in the chest. Adrian moved. Even wounded, he crossed the distance like vengeance given a body. He slammed into Cole, knocking the gun away from Hannah's head. Claire dragged her sister down as the two men crashed against the concrete. Cole reached for a blade. Adrian caught his wrist. There was nothing elegant about the fight now. No cinematic grace. Just blood, breath, fury, and the terrible intimacy of men trying to survive each other. Cole drove his knee into Adrian's wound. Adrian staggered. Claire saw the knife flash. She grabbed the nearest object, a metal pipe, and swung with everything she had. It struck Cole across the temple. He dropped. Adrian looked at her, stunned. Claire stood there breathing hard, the pipe shaking in her hands. I told you, she said. I'm angry. Adrian's mouth twitched despite the blood. Then Luca gasped. Adrian turned. His brother lay on the concrete, blood spreading beneath him, eyes wide with the terror of a man who had finally reached the end of his own performance. Adrian went to him. Claire wanted to stop him, wanted to remind him that Luca had done this, that he had burned her home, kidnapped her sister, nearly destroyed a hospital. But grief does not ask permission from justice. Adrian knelt beside his brother. Luca's breath rattled. I hated you, he whispered. Adrian said nothing. I hated that Marco loved you more. He didn't. Luca laughed weakly, blood on his lips. Still lying for me. Adrian's face tightened. Luca's eyes shifted to Claire. I'm sorry, he whispered. Claire did not know if he deserved an answer, so she gave him the only truth she had. You should have been better. Luca closed his eyes. Adrian held his hand until the monitor of the world seemed to go silent around them. When Luca died, Adrian did not break. That came later. First, he stood. He gave orders with blood running down his arm. He had Cole restrained. He had Hannah carried to the SUV. He told Mikhail where the evidence would be, how to contact the only judge he still trusted, which officers outside the terminal were bought, and which could be allowed inside. He became ice again, because everyone needed him to. Claire watched him, and understood. This was not lack of feeling. It was postponement. The lockbox was found inside a shipping container beneath the false floor of an imported ambulance. Claire's key opened the first mechanism. Luca's ring, taken from his hand with Adrian's permission, opened the second. Inside were drives, documents, photographs, account numbers, names. Enough to burn half of Boston. Enough to free some people and bury others. Enough to explain why Marco Bellondi had died, whispering to a nurse in the dark. By the time dawn fully broke, federal agents stormed the terminal. Real agents this time, or as real as men with guns and badges could ever feel to Claire again. Hannah was wrapped in a blanket in the back of an ambulance, refusing to let go of Claire's hand. Cole Mercer was taken away bleeding and unconscious. Luca Vale's body left under a black sheet. Adrian stood alone near the harbor, snow collecting on his shoulders. Claire approached him slowly. His wound was still bleeding. You need a hospital, she said. His eyes remained on the water. I own a few. That's not funny. No, he said. It isn't. The wind moved between them. Claire looked at his profile, at the hard line of his jaw, at the blood on his white shirt, at the snow melting against his dark hair. You lost your brother, she said. I lost him years ago. That doesn't make today easier. His eyes closed briefly. No. For once, there was no mask strong enough. Claire stepped closer. I'm sorry. He looked at her then, and the grief in him was so controlled it was almost worse than tears. I don't know what to do with that, he admitted. With what? Kindness I didn't buy. Loyalty I didn't force. A woman who should run from me and keeps walking closer. Claire's throat tightened. I might still run. I know. You scare me. I know. You watched me without asking. His face hardened with shame. Yes. You burned through my life like a storm. I know. And yet, she whispered, when the bullets started, I trusted you. The words hit him harder than any accusation. Adrian looked away first. I don't deserve that. No, Claire said. You don't get to decide what I give. His eyes returned to hers. For once, Adrian Vale had no answer. Claire reached for his injured hand, slowly, giving him every chance to pull away. He didn't. His fingers closed around hers with careful restraint, as if he feared his need could bruise. Behind them, cameras flashed from beyond the police line. This time, Adrian did not step in front of her. He looked at her first, a question without words. Claire, exhausted, grieving, furious, alive, laced her fingers through his. Let them take the picture. 3 weeks later, Boston still talked about the nurse and the Mafia boss. They called her a victim, a lover, a conspirator, a hero, the woman who brought down a criminal dynasty, the woman Adrian Vale nearly started a war to protect. Claire ignored most of it. She testified behind closed doors. She sat with Hannah through nightmares. She moved into a temporary apartment with better locks and worse radiator noise. She returned to work because hospitals did not pause for broken hearts or burned homes. Adrian disappeared from public view. Not entirely. Men like him never truly disappeared. His name remained in headlines. His organization fractured, then reorganized. Several judges resigned. 2 senators retired suddenly. 3 federal agents were arrested. The Belandi remnants collapsed by spring. But Adrian did not come to her apartment. He did not sit across the street in the rain. He did not send black SUVs. He sent one thing, a box. Inside was her mother's blue mug, cracked but intact, recovered from the apartment fire. Beside it was a note in Adrian's handwriting. No guards, no cameras, no conditions, just what survived. Claire stared at that note for a long time. Then she cried for the first time since the hospital. Not because of the mug, because he had listened. 1 month after the snowstorm, Claire found him outside St. Bridget's. Not in a convoy, not surrounded by armed men. Alone, standing beneath the same emergency entrance where he had first walked into her life, with blood and winter behind him. He wore a dark coat. His left arm was still stiff from the gunshot. His face looked thinner, carved by sleeplessness and grief. Claire stopped in front of him. You look terrible, she said. His eyes moved over her face. So do you. She almost smiled. For a moment, they were back where it began. Hospital lights, cold air, too much unsaid. You stopped watching me, she said. Yes. Was it hard? His gaze held hers. Yes. The honesty warmed something in her despite herself. Why are you here, Adrian? He reached into his coat and handed her a folder. Claire opened it. Blueprints. A medical facility. Emergency trauma center. Pediatric wing. Domestic violence recovery unit. Staff housing. Legal aid office. Her chest tightened. What is this? A hospital fund. Clean money. Seized from accounts my father used to own. It will be run by a board with no connection to me. Claire looked up. Why show me? Because your name is on the proposed board. She stared at him. You can't just put my name on things. I didn't. I wrote it in pencil. Despite everything, a laugh broke from her. Small, surprised, real. Adrian's face changed at the sound. Only slightly, but enough. You're asking, she said. I'm learning. The words nearly undid her. Claire looked down at the blueprint again. What happens to you? His silence stretched. Then he said, I leave Boston for a while. The Vale name needs distance from everything this will become. And if I ask you not to? His eyes lifted. The question lived between them, dangerous and bright. I would stay, he said. That simple? No. His voice dropped. Nothing about what I feel for you is simple. Claire's pulse quickened. Adrian stepped closer, but not too close. I have wanted to touch you since the moment you ordered me out of your trauma bay, he said quietly. I have wanted to lock every door between you and the world. I have wanted to punish every person who made your hands shake. I have wanted things I have no right to want. Claire's breath caught. But I will not turn want into a cage, he continued. Not with you. The city moved around them. Ambulances arrived. Nurses changed shifts. Snowmelt dripped from the awning above. Ordinary life continued beside something extraordinary and fragile. Claire looked at the man everyone feared. Then she took one step closer. Good, she whispered, because I don't belong in cages. His gaze lowered to her mouth. No, he said, you don't. This time, when he lifted his hand, he did not stop halfway. He touched her cheek with the backs of his fingers, gentle enough to break her heart. Claire closed her eyes for 1 second, letting the warmth of him settle where fear had lived. Then she opened them. Kiss me, she said. Adrian went still. You're sure? The question mattered, maybe more than the kiss. Claire rose on her toes and answered by touching her mouth to his. For a man made of control, Adrian kissed like surrender terrified him. Slow at first, restrained. One hand hovering near her waist, before finally settling there with careful pressure. Claire felt the tension in him, the violence held back, the devotion he did not know how to name without making it sound like a threat. Then she touched his jaw, and something in him broke open. Not dangerously. Honestly, the kiss deepened beneath the hospital awning, while Boston moved around them, unaware that its most feared man was learning how to be gentle in the one place he had once brought blood. When they parted, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I don't know how this ends, he said. Claire looked at the emergency doors behind him, at the city beyond, at the man who had entered her life as a nightmare and stayed long enough to become a choice. It doesn't have to end tonight. His eyes closed briefly. For Adrian Vale, that was almost prayer. 6 months later, the first snow of winter fell over Boston. The new trauma wing at St. Bridget's opened quietly, without Adrian's name on the building. Claire attended the ceremony in a navy dress, her hair pinned back, her hands steady as she cut the ribbon. Hannah stood beside her, smiling through tears. Reporters asked who funded the project. Claire smiled. Someone trying to do one thing right. That night, after the cameras left, Claire found Adrian on the hospital roof. The city glittered beneath them, cold and endless. Snow drifted through the dark. Far below, ambulances moved like red veins through Boston streets. Adrian stood near the ledge, hands in his coat pockets. No guards? Claire asked. One, he said. She looked around. Where? He turned. His eyes softened in the way only she could see. Here. Claire shook her head, but she was smiling. He opened his coat, revealing a small velvet box. Her breath caught. Adrian, it isn't a proposal. She blinked. He opened the box. Inside was a key. Not Marco's, not evidence, not death. A brass key on a simple ring. To what? She asked. A house on the coast. No cameras. No gates you can't open. No men outside unless you ask. Your name on the deed first. Claire stared at it. He added, carefully, not a cage, a door. Her eyes burned. You really are learning. Slowly, she stepped closer, took the key, and closed her fingers around it. The snow fell between them like the night they met, but this time, there was no blood on her hands. Adrian looked at her as if she were still the impossible thing in the room, the woman who had told him no, the woman who had saved his brother, the woman who had seen the monster, the wound, the man beneath both, and chosen not blindly, not fearfully, but with open eyes. Claire touched his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. You know, she said softly, I'm still angry at you for shutting down my hospital. His mouth curved. A real smile this time. I know. And for stalking me. Yes. And for being impossible. I've heard that. She slid her hand up to his collar and pulled him closer. But you did bring my sister home. His expression sobered. I would burn the world before I let you lose her. Claire looked into his eyes. Once, those words would have terrified her. Now she heard the difference. Not possession, promise. "Don't burn the world," she whispered. His hand covered hers against his chest. "Then stay close enough to stop me." Claire smiled. "That sounds like a terrible responsibility." "It is." "And what do I get?" Adrian leaned down, his lips brushing her ear. "Everything I have left that isn't ruined." Her heart ached. She turned her face, and his mouth found hers beneath the falling snow. Below them, Boston kept moving. Dangerous, beautiful, unforgiving. A city of secrets. A city of sirens. A city where monsters wore tailored coats and nurses carried keys that could destroy empires. But on the roof of St. Bridget's, Adrian Vale held Claire Bennett like a man who had finally found something more powerful than fear. And for the first time in his life, he did not shut the world out. He let someone in.